Thank you. This is a moment of joy, and I want to kiss everybody because you are the image of the joy. And he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity sunrise, then said the poet. And this is wonderful to be here. Wonderful. I feel like now really to dive in this ocean of gratitude, of generosity. This is too much.
Welcome to 1999 the podcast. I am John Brooks.
I'm Julia Sermons.
And this is an international edition of the podcast because I'm in a hotel in England. So hopefully the British Wi-Fi holds up. Anyhow, we're going to do a special episode today. I think I just realized it's our third, in some senses, Julia, our third consecutive Billy Crystal episode. Because it's the Oscars this weekend, biggest night in Hollywood this weekend, and we're gonna do a little episode about the Oscars, not this year's Oscars, but previous Oscars, which often were hosted by Billy Crystal. So
those were the days, huh?
So here was the assignment for this episode. So bringing us back to 1999, the 71st Academy Awards took place in 1999, honoring the movies of 1998, and the 72nd Academy Awards took place in 2000, honoring the movies of 1999. And one thing that they both have in common is that they were both terrible Best Picture years. One being a kind of almost famously, if not necessarily terrible Best Picture, but certainly like shock, what the fuck just happened, and how did Harvey Weinstein engineer it, Best Picture. And then the other one being a zeitgeist movie that did not age well, along with other Best Picture nominees that probably should not have been nominated for Best Picture. So famously, the 71st Academy Awards, the Best Picture winner was Shakespeare in Love. And it beat out Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, which won the Best Foreign Language Picture anyway, so who cares? Saving Private Ryan and The Thin Red Line. So that was a year where Saving Private Ryan was pretty much guaranteed to win, and then Harvey Weinstein spent a ton of money to convince Academy voters to vote for Shakespeare in Love. What are your thoughts, Julia, about the nominees and winner of the 71st Annual Academy Awards held in 1999?
Well, so I loved Shakespeare in Love at the time as a teenage theater kid.
Sure.
Shakespeare fan / teen girl into romantic comedies. And I had not seen Saving Private Ryan until relatively recently. Oh. And my take is that it's fine that Shakespeare in Love won. I am absolutely okay with it.
Is that a backhanded dig at Saving Private Ryan?
No, not at all. I mean, what I'll say is I don't like how much comedies are overlooked.
Yeah.
By the Oscars. And they're just very different movies. And, I think that's part of the problem I've always had with the Oscars is that different kinds of movies can be really great, and that's okay. And I think Saving Private Ryan is very good. And I think actually the way it shook out with Spielberg taking the Best Director and Shakespeare winning Best Picture, I think you could actually say is a pretty good result. Because I think Saving Private Ryan is a kind of Greatest Generation, War is Hell movie, and it's incredibly accomplished. And yeah. Although maybe Harvey Weinstein had a point about the end dragging a little bit, I will say.
You do not, in fact, have to hand it to Harvey Weinstein.
And I think I just yesterday rewatched Shakespeare in Love, and I guess I hadn't seen it in a long time, maybe because I was oh, will it not be as good for me? And then will I feel more bad about it winning Best Picture, which I think is like the
Yeah.
worst thing to happen to this movie, to be honest, that it won
Yeah.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
But it's very inventive. It's very clever without being like too clever. It's incredibly well written by Tom Stoppard, like in terms of
Yes.
as like a meta theatrical, if that you want to call it that, conceit that's like cute but not too cute. I think he writes very well in a language that kind of evokes Elizabethan language, but without being with having some poetry in it, without being like totally impenetrable to a modern moviegoer.
It's almost like a mass audience Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like in terms, yeah. Yeah.
so many great parts in it, so many great actors.
Yeah. Ben Affleck's fantastic in that movie. I love him
Maybe
in
the
that
best
role.
thing he's ever done,
Yeah,
possibly.
probably.
Um, and he just
Though not if you ask the Oscars, who gave him the Academy
no,
Award.
no, we'll get into that
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I like forgot that Tom Wilkinson is just this small role as the money who like
Yes.
falls in love with the theater. Like it's about loving the theater by a man who clearly worked in and loves the theater, the Stoppard,
Yeah.
I mean. And I
Yeah.
think it's well directed. It it looks good to me. And I so I'm pretty fine with it actually. Although and um Spielberg is incredibly accomplished at what he does, and yeah, as like an it's probably like the best version of what it is, maybe. I haven't seen Thin Red Line, which seems to me like, from what I know, maybe the best actual contender for the film, the best
Well,
picture.
yeah, to me that's the thing where like I knew Thin Red Line was never going to win, but that definitely is the choice for me. Like if I have to pick among those movies, I rank that as among the greatest movies ever made. And it's something that I've like, shown to students and stuff for a variety of different reasons. I kind of have softened on the Shakespeare in Love thing. I just found it very annoying at the time, just because of how much it was a sort of money backed advertising campaign by Weinstein to kind of buy that Oscar. Um, I think actually weirdly, like as a non-orthodox Shakespearean, I actually find it useful as like one of the things I would sometimes point to be like, this story probably isn't what you think it is. And it is very clever in terms of the sort of meta commentary on Shakespeare. I think also because I'd been a big fan of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern for a long time, that I sort of found the meta commentary a little bit, again, like mass audience and a little bit like thin. But yes, it's elegantly made. The performances are really wonderful. I even think that Gwyneth Paltrow like deserved to probably win the Academy Award that she did for that movie. I think she's really great in it. And yeah, but I really think that was the movie where the first time that really got the ball rolling on people being like really mad about what won Best Picture, and there was like a bunch afterwards. So we're going to talk about some of those before and after. Anyway, the more egregious is the following year, where obviously American Beauty, which is again not aged well, a movie we'll eventually talk about again at some point, won Best Picture. But I think, as a podcast about this particular year, what's really egregious about the nominees is that I think only one of them even deserved to be nominated, never mind about winning. The nominees were American Beauty, The Cider House Rules, The Green Mile, The Insider, and The Sixth Sense. And I think you and I both agree that The Insider is probably not just the rightful nominee, but also probably the rightful winner of that year. But if you go back, I mean, the movies that have lasted, and sort of, it seems almost like an egregious oversight that a movie like The Green Mile and Cider House Rules, and I love Cider House Rules, we've talked about this a little bit, but like, it's not great. It's not a Best Picture. I just love it because I'm a sucker. But like Magnolia, Eyes Wide Shut, Bringing Out the Dead, it's Topsy Turvy, The Insider. It's like, how did we end up with this list of movies, and how the fuck did American Beauty win? Answer being Harvey Weinstein again. But Yeah, I assume you would embrace the insider, but is anything else that we have seen or talked about, do you think belongs on that list or not on that list?
I'm trying to think of the ones you mentioned if I have anything else. I mean, yeah, I think of the nominees, I would definitely pick Insider. I think all the ones you listed would probably be it for me. Talented Mr. Ripley, perhaps.
Down to
Uh,
Mr. Ripley for sure. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, those are the ones that come to mind for me.
yeah.
Possibly Virgin Suicides also.
Virgin
Um,
Suicides. I mean, for my money, like Credible Rock should be up there. Um, there's a whole bunch. I mean, even the end of the affair probably belongs on that list above some of the others. Like I think Notting Hill, speaking of like comedies not getting nominated, right, is one of the ones that probably deserves a slot above a Cider House Rules or a The Green Mile. But yeah, in retrospect, that like 99 does seem to be the year that they got the most wrong.
98 versus 99.
Right. So like the 72nd Academy Awards for 99.
Yeah.
It's just kind of galling to look at that list. I mean, you can make a case for The Sixth Sense because of what a phenomenon it was and sort of like how, kind of like not revolutionary, but that it was like we've talked about this in the episode that it's like, you know, feeding into a lot of the uh cinematic traditions of like the 70s and all that sort of like, whatever. I can make a case for The Sixth Sense like belonging on that list, but yeah, it's a pretty bad list. But American
Yeah.
Beauty is trash. And I one of the movies that I'm going to have on my list is a movie that I think people are tricked into liking because of the cinematography and the score, which I think happens a lot. That people like believe a movie is good because of the cinematography and score.
I
And
like
like I think American Beauty is like the classic example of a movie that people think is good because Conrad Hall shot it and Thomas Newman's score is like unbelievable in how effective it is. And people just sort of think that they're watching a good movie because because it looks and sounds like a good movie, and it isn't actually. So anyway, I have a number of movies where I think that has been the case, where people believe it's good because they've been tricked. To believe it's good.
cinematography matters, people. It's very important.
It really
Misunderstood.
does. I mean,
Undervalued.
weirdly there's like there's a meta sort of commentary on this in American Beauty with the whole like plastic bag thing, right? Where it's like, look how beautiful it is. It's like, no, it's not. It's a plastic bag. But like when you put Thomas Newman behind it, it kind of does.
Upon rewatching, the plastic bag did actually get to me. It's like it's kind of this like I was kind of entranced by it after looking at it long enough. At first I was like, oh, this is stupid, and just has become such a cliche of,
Yeah.
I don't know, a way of looking at the world even. But then like I kept watching it and I was like, oh, this is
Well, that's
very
that's
IMAX. This is beautiful.
it is beautiful. Like that's the part of it that's the one part of the movie that every like still now and even when I first watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that is really beautiful. But like it's beautiful in context because like it ultimately still is Conrad Hall and Thomas Newman like making a bag flying around, beautiful with like the music happening in the background and stuff. So yes, proof of concept that you can turn a film into a floating plastic bag into a thing of beauty. Yes,
Yeah,
American Beauty pulls that off. Everything else,
it's
not so
just
much.
awfully thin, isn't it?
It is.
Like,
It really
just
is.
there's because like being a teen in the suburbs at the time and being like, this place sucks and it's full of hypocrisy and lies. I mean, I think it makes that case pretty well. Like, it's like Catcher in the Rye. Like, it's a movie for teenagers.
Mm,
And
hmm.
as a movie for teenagers, I think it's not great because, there's the objectification of young girls, more than one, really. Um, but as like a thesis statement about the suburbs and conformity and nonconformity and being kind of like having like a humor that you would find deliciously black
Yeah,
when you're
yeah.
17. Uh, yeah, I mean, I like because like I think at the time when Wes Bentley says this really mean thing to Mina Savari about the fact that like she thinks she's beautiful and special, but she's just boring and um, like I think the whole notion that like a guy could be more attracted to any girl who wasn't a cheerleader like was kind of like revelatory and important for me, but like in
Yeah.
retrospect it's just like, a whole lot of ick related to
Yeah.
teenagers girls. And I think actually friend of the show Alex Steed, there was some kind of social media conversation about this movie and about how like, oh, it's aged so poorly and we didn't think about it at the time. And he was like, my dad thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
Like, he
Yeah.
said like, I'm supposed to root for this pervert. Like,
People thought about it at the time. It is true. I was put off by that movie by the time the Oscars rolled around. Like when I saw it, I loved it, and then like by the time it came to Oscar season, I'm like, oh god, that movie sucks. So like it was within a few months where I was like, oh boy. And this was before even the whole like Kevin Spaciness of everything. Recontextualized that movie from the art and artist's perspective. So um and his Academy Award speech, we talked about this like years ago when we did this movie, but like his Academy Award speech is so gross, and he's like confessing basically to being a sexual predator to like his friends on stage, and it's weird, and it really taints the whole movie. And it is still very much a beautifully shot movie though, and it's got a great score. So
yeah, and there's like I think the whole like there is something to be like Wes Bentley's character is also an immense creep, but
yeah,
I think like the fact that he's just this person who's very kind of like confident in himself as a teenager, even in this kind of like perverse way, like that was
yeah,
something that was um kind of interesting in retrospect. I think Annette Bening is as great as she can be with the material.
and Chris
Um
Cooper,
and
yeah,
and Chris Cooper, yeah. I'm a huge fan of 6 Feet Under, and I think you can see in Alan Ball's screenplay like what he will later make much better with 6 Feet Under. Um, I think
fair,
because like he was able or learned how to create like there's not so much like juvenile black and white thinking about who are good people and who are bad people, and like who are real
mm-hmm,
people and who are phonies. Um, when he's actually able to love all his characters and see things from their different points of view.
mm-hmm,
Um, so I think like it was interesting to see that there kind of just as a very superficial and undeveloped thing. Um, I do think that like in the last 5 minutes of the movie, I did think Spacey had some, uh, like, uh, that was like the kind of first time in the movie I was like, oh, he's actually a good actor. Like when he was given like more than one note to play, except that kind of like angry deadpan.
yeah,
Uh,
seething rage, yeah.
yeah, like when he was given one more note, I thought he was great. But yeah, the whole thing is just kind of dreadfully thin, I would say.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Sam Mendes by any means either, so that's probably also a problem for me. Though I would like to go revisit. Maybe we'll do it for this podcast at some point. I'd like to revisit Road to Perdition at some point because I did not like it when it came out, and I kind of wonder if I have a different thought about it now. But I'd be interested to find out one way or the other. All right. Anyway, we are going to take a look at we're going to present our cases for three of the worst best pictures of the last 50 or so years. The thinking behind this is either a real bad movie that won best picture, or a movie that won best picture when something else definitely should have won it. So I have three from kind of that spectrum. But Julia, do you want to? We have no idea if we picked the same ones, by the way. So we're going to find out.
So I have two that I think were truly dreadful. And then I have a couple that I think, like the movies that won, I either like or I'm perfectly fine with. I just felt like something else was better.
Okay. Why don't we start with the ones that you think are bad and should not have won, period.
Um,
And I'll do,
this
you
is
do one
a
and I'll do one.
this is a recent one. Anora, the most recent one, right? Um,
Oh,
yeah,
the most recent. Yeah.
yeah. Um,
You think Anora is a bad movie?
it's not for me. I didn't hate it. Um, it just like again, it just seems like remarkably flimsy. I thought she was great in it.
Yeah.
No problem with her award, although there may be things I would have preferred. But I just, yeah, it just seems like it's like thinks it's saying more than it's saying, and like if it tried to say a little less, maybe it would be better. But like, I suppose there's just like a kind of maybe I'm like foolish or buying into Hollywood hype or something, but I do feel like there should be a certain amount. I mean, I like nice quiet movies, plenty, although this is maybe not my favorite nice quiet movie, but I do sort of hope for a bit of scale and ambition in a best picture winner that
Mm. Hmm.
I didn't really see there.
Yeah. What would you have put in its place?
Probably The Brutalist, but I also would have been happy with Conclave 2 over, not Conclave 2, the sequel, but also with,
Conclave 2. I missed Conclave 2.
how do we say it in Latin? We have Abemus Papam again.
um yeah, I think that's fair. I think that like some of the more actually so I'll start with one of the ones that I think fits into that same category as just being like it was fine, but what are we doing? Way too slight. And I'm going all the way back to 2011, the 84th Academy Awards, and the best picture was The Artist. um Now, to be fair, there were some other real bad Best Picture nominees that year as well. So it's not one of the cases of a movie where it's like there's this very clear favorite that should have won, and that has also kind of stood the test of time better than The Artist has. I saw The Artist in the theater. I thought it was fine. It was fine. Like I had a good time. I thought it was cute and clever. I thought it was like paper thin and a little like self-indulgently Hollywood. And I have never thought about it since. And I don't think anybody else has either, really. Like I don't really think it's a movie that has stood the test of time. It was up against this is when they started having like 45 Best Picture
Right.
nominees. So it was up against The Descendants, which is a great movie, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, which is not, The Help, which is also not, Hugo, a movie that I love, but I don't think is like necessarily earth shattering, Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, which is a great film, War Horse, which again Steven Spielberg with a budget, and then The Tree of Life, which again is also I think one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. I understand why The Tree of Life wouldn't win. It's like over 3 hours long and very philosophical, but it is objectively a better movie than The Artist. So that's my sort of like, yeah, it's fine, but what are we doing? Nominee.
Yeah, I enjoyed The Artist. Also have not revisited. I thought it was a lot of fun, and like we talked about this briefly with Roberto Benigni's acceptance speech, but
Yeah.
I kind of love it with like anything kind of like weird and European kind of like works its way into the Oscars. Um, Especially because like something that annoys me is that foreign language performances in foreign. I mean, there is best foreign language film, but uh, that foreign languages are not more represented in acting categories and in other categories. So I mean, I don't, it was an American film, I believe, but just that like cheesy, weird Frenchness of it all, like I'm kind of
Yeah.
wise, but I definitely would have chosen Tree of Life as well.
All right. What do you got next?
Forrest Gump. Awful. God awful.
Ooh, that's controversial. Yeah. Well, okay. Go ahead. I have thoughts. Go ahead.
I mean, it's just such like, it's not even that it's schmaltzy. It's that like, especially when you look through it. I mean, more so when you look at it now, but even when you look through it at the time as like this kind of like Republican coded anti-intellectualism, rah rah nonsense, and just like so transparently, like if you're, like obviously he's meant to have some cognitive disability, but Like, but the overall idea is like, if you're stupid and never challenge anything, you'll go far in life. Whereas if you rebel and ask any questions, you'll die of AIDS. Like,
Yeah. So I think like, all right, so I am a big Forrest Gump defender. And I get that criticism, but I think it is, I find that to be a sort of like the wrong criticism of the movie, right? That, in other words, that I don't think that's what the movie's actually trying to do. I've always looked at Forrest Gump as a way of kind of encapsulating the kind of boomer myth of the 20th century. That it's not so much a sort of like, it's not, judging Forrest or Jenny or whatever, but it's rather reflecting a kind of mythos that had emerged over the course of the 20th century, and then also kind of being a little bit kind of solemn about it. So I find the way that Forrest is kind of cast as this person who like the world is happening to, while all these like big formative events that like make up the whole boomer generation, right, sort of happen around him, as a kind of a way of talking about the sort of non-reality of like what that myth actually is. But there's a kind of a beauty to it, but it's also like obviously a fantasy, and that a lot of these kind of these kind of cultural norms and kind of conclusions about certain kinds of people are like wrong because the whole thing is kind of a fantasy. And so I've always found it as a movie that's like both criticizing and celebrating at the same time. And I've always thought it was really interesting, like from that perspective. I have not since day one that I saw it did I find it to be a celebration of 20th century America, but rather a kind of acknowledgement of like the way that we want to look at ourselves, and also just like how artificial that actually is, right? And just kind of embracing that whole thing. So I understand like where you're coming from, and I totally understand people who hate Forrest Gump and like why they hate it, and also that there was like great movies that year that it beat out. But I also like, I will defend it.
so did you feel like the critique element, or at least or angle of it, was something you noticed right from the beginning? Have you rewatched it recently? And
I rewatched it a bunch of times. I felt, I think honestly, like, I think part of this is because I'm kind of an outsider, because like I was not born in the US. And so I'd always kind of looked at the way that Americans talk and think about their own history as very much like weird. And so it kind of like resonated with me from that angle, even from a fairly young age, that, I've heard about this kind of like, greatest generation kind of whatever, right? Or like, boomer generation kind of myth, and around like Americana and Elvis Presley and, whatever, and, JFK and so on and so forth. And I just felt like what I was watching was something that I had been almost like a satire of like what I had been sort of like fed for a lot of my life. So
interesting.
maybe it's just me, but I don't think I'm misreading that, because I don't think that Robert Zemeckis is a particularly like, flag waving, rah rah, I don't know, kind of a guy, but someone who like even in Back to the Future shows that there's this like weird space between like nostalgia and like fact, right, of history and the way that we remember the 50s and 60s and like the way they actually were, which I think is sort of, maybe Forrest Gump doesn't fully achieve all of that, but like I found it like really profound in terms of viewing it as kind of a satire, but also like a lovely story of this like guy with great Alan Silvestri music happening in the background and an awesome soundtrack. So, but yeah, I think it's reasonable. I'm not disagreeing with your, like, I think that's a reasonable thing to say. And I think there's like a very like strong cultural split. So what else was nominated that year?
Oh, quiz show.
Four Weddings. There's your whole thing with comedies again.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction and Shawshank. So
See, I would pick any of those over Forrest Gump.
I think that's fair. But again, like a lot of the times it comes down to Academy voters like being very nostalgic bunch. So I don't know. I think that's sort of what it came down to.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would tell you I'm going to give it a fair shot and rewatch it, but I will probably just rewatch Being There instead.
All right, that's fair. Okay, so for my next, so I'm going to go with one of the ones that I think is really bad. I think this is pretty famous. I don't think this is at all controversial. You may have even said the same thing. This is up there with Green Book, but I'm still so mad about it, especially because of the other 4 movies that it beat out that I think are like legitimately great Best Picture contenders, and that is 2005's Crash. Which is a fucking dreadful movie, which beat out Brokeback Mountain, which was expected to win, and then Capote, Good Night and Good Luck, and Munich, all of which are fabulous movies that still very much hold up to this day. Crash, I think, was probably the most shocking win of recent memory. I think it's sort of like beyond is beaten out Shakespeare in Love is the one where people are like, what what which movie? Even it getting nominated, but yeah, it is a stupid, superficial, obvious, stupid movie. And but it clicks all the boxes of like having sort of an epic scope and dealing very seriously with racism, and having a all-star cast, and it just sort of, it seems like it kind of hacked the Academy Award formula and was able to like ride that into what I think is probably one of the worst Best Picture wins of all time. So
It did not make my list because I have not seen it.
okay, well then you're that's good.
I mean,
That's
like,
good for you. That's a good choice.
part of the problem I had with the prompt was that there's a lot, like, I was in grad school for forever, um, and like like so when a lot of people, and like a lot of film fans slash snobs, I've been disillusioned by the Oscars, but yet still too invested in it.
Yeah.
And so when people have told me this movie is not good, it did not deserve to win, I have just not seen them mostly. So a lot of the recent ones that are um, dubbed particularly egregious, I just have not seen them because I've steered clear of them. So, but yeah, I believe you from just knowing what I do about it. It is awful. It sounds awful. Like there's
Definitely see the other 4 if you haven't already. But yes, you can spend the rest of your life never watching Crash and just listening to people talk about how terrible it is, and that will do you.
you may or not want to include this, but there's this film theory book that I was reading for work, and it's like an introduction to film theory through the senses. So like each chapter is about a different sense.
Ooh.
And one is about touch, and so the first 3 pages of the chapter are describing the movie Crash, and like I could barely get through those 3 pages.
Wait. Oh my god. Okay. Can you explain what it actually says in those pages? Is that
I mean, I could go get it, but do we want to do that to either ourselves or the listeners? It just
do you want to read?
explains, like, because it's talking about how skin is like and race is like a barrier that sometimes is that sometimes holds people from holds people at a distance, but sometimes makes people connect. And it just describes things that happen in the movie, and it just makes me think like, no, thank you.
And I think it's one of those movies where like it is as effective if someone just describes the movie to you as if you watch it. That's how sort of like superficial and dumb it is. Yeah. Does this book have a chapter on the sixth sense? Is that one of the ways that we interpret movies through
That's a good question.
ESP?
I would have to check. I mean, I like ESP. I mean, like,
Ghosts.
some academic could make it work. Or,
I'm sure they could.
Make
I'm
it
sure they could.
quote unquote work.
And it would be very gimmicky. Yeah. Anyway, fuck Crash. Bad movie. And I think one because of homophobia. So there we go. And also because like it's about Los Angeles and racism and
Well, that's always a theory, right?
Yeah,
That like, just like Hollywood loves congratulating itself, which has
it
also
sure
been a
as fuck
theory
does. It sure
Shakespeare in
does.
Love's success. It's about people who want to act and put on a show, which is great. I
I
love
think that's
movies.
also true of the artist, right? Because it's like it's about the history of film, and
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
hmm Anyway, and La La Land, which didn't win, which is right, which is a pretty good movie, but like Moonlight is a better one. So, but won for 5 seconds until they realized they said the wrong thing.
I
Anyways,
mean, it was eventful. It was not boring.
yeah. Yeah. All right, let's do one more, and then we can do some honorable mentions or whatever else you have on your list. But what's
So
your last?
those were my only two, like, not like, these are the ones that I felt compelled qualified to say are egregious. So I
Yeah.
had another little list of ones that, like, where the winner is, I think, very good to, like, I like it, but I
Yep.
just would have chosen something else.
Okay.
So I think, well, two are fairly, I think, well established takes, which is Rocky winning Best Picture over Network, which I think
Oh, yeah. Okay.
that is, I mean, like, I like Rocky fine, but I think in terms of quality, ambition, like across the board, quality and, like, of course, timeliness. Now that, like, if you watch that movie now, it's like pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Although, like Rocky, I will like. Yeah, it's not egregious because Rocky, certainly in terms of like predicting the cultural staying power, is still very much a movie that is like very much in the zeitgeist, right? People still do the thing up the Philadelphia Art Museum steps and whatever. But yeah, like especially now, Network, and that's the other thing about like good night, good night, good luck. It's like these movies that are like, really now we could have used them as having had Best Picture Oscars to their credit, so that we could, tell people to rewatch them and be like, it won the Best Picture Oscar. And also, it's very relevant to the moment. But yeah, that's a good choice.
yeah, and it's known for being this, like, biting, very sharp satire, but it has, like, some real emotion to it. I think Beatrice Straight, right, won the Best Supporting Actress for playing William Holden's wife, and they have just basically
Hmm.
this one scene together. I think she's on screen for 8 minutes, and it's just, like, beautifully written about these two people who still love each other but are falling apart, but and have hurt each other a lot. But
Hmm.
so it really has a lot of depth to it, as well as just being just incredibly intelligent and
Yeah.
ahead of its time as media satire.
Yeah.
So the other one that I think is obvious, although maybe not so, maybe more debatable, is Dances with Wolves beating Goodfellas.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh,
These are
I haven't
those are two
seen
really
Dances
good,
with
like
Wolves
those are two good
anytime.
arguments.
Yeah, I'm not sure how parts of it would hold up, shall we say?
Yeah.
But I always remember having been, like, a very well made and affecting, interesting movie. But I think, Goodfellas is Goodfellas.
Yes, Goodfellas is Goodfellas, and that again is one of those times where it's like I can legitimately, I'm not mad about it, right? Like, which movie would I rather rewatch these days? Definitely Goodfellas. Which movie do I think has like stood the test of time better? Definitely Goodfellas. But especially at the time, like it's kind of like the argument with Saving Private Ryan, right? It's the sort of like it's the achievement side of it. It's like the it's just such a spectacle. It's a really great drama. It's a very like well made movie. And I think it still has a legacy. I think it still is one of those movies where people are like, it's on a lot of people's like, you must see this at some point in your life kind of movies. So it's rare that you're going to get movies that are like that, I think, culturally relevant for that long in the same year. But I agree with you that like if we had to redo it, it's got to be Goodfellas.
Yeah, Dances with Wolves has that kind of, like, old Hollywood epic quality to it, right? That is nice to see done well. And
It does, and
um,
but it also has like the element of not necessarily commentarying on westerns, but like updating them, right? Like having actual like indigenous American actors play indigenous Americans and like not getting all like cowboys and Indians-y about it, right? It was attempting to be a kind of like very realistic portrayal of the frontier in a way that I think kind of removes it from the political dimension that so many of the movies of like the golden age of the Western are notorious for, right? And in that sense, I think is like really quite interesting. But having said that, like the following year, Unforgiven won, and it does a very similar kind of thing. So
Yeah, I was just
yeah, it's a weird kind of doubling up, I think, of that.
so I don't know how egregious this one may or may not be, but Rain Man winning Best Picture.
Hmm.
I honestly haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't. But I don't remember having a problem with it. But I definitely would have picked Dangerous Liaisons, and then obviously, of course, Glenn Close being snubbed for that one. Notorious acting Oscar fuck up.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just with you there. I
Yeah,
like
I
Rain
mean,
Man.
just like so sharp and juicy, and in its own weird way moving, and another great cast. Stephen Frears is an interesting guy because he's made a lot of great movies, but they're all kind of, and he's also made some not so great movies, but they're all
Yeah.
kind of different.
Yeah.
It's hard to put like an auteur stamp on him, but
Yeah, I like Stephen Frears a lot, but he is with who is it that we talked about recently? Who directed Girl Interrupted?
James Mangold.
Mangold, right? He's very much in the James Mangold vein. We're like made a lot of really high quality movies. Seems to be a very good director, but there's something kind of journeyman about him that it's like it's hard to put your finger on exactly what his style is. We will have to, when we finally cover Cruel Intentions, we'll have to do a C also about Dangerous Liaisons. It'll give us a
Oh
reason
yeah,
to
love
go
it.
revisit
Love it.
that movie. So there you go. All right, so I'm going to give you my final kind of thoughts. So my biggest and most pet peeviest, and the one that I think is the worst of all Best Picture winners of all time, would be in 1996, the 1995 Academy Awards. That would be the 68th Academy Awards, and the Best Picture winner of those Academy Awards was Braveheart, a movie that I hate, and a movie.
Yep, this is my next one.
A movie I recently wrote an essay about. I will share that with people if you want to read that. The I think like peak example of a movie that tricked people into liking it by having amazing cinematography and score. John Toll, cinematographer, and James Horner, one of his greatest scores ever. And you know, the whole sort of like big battle scene, big historical epic element of it. I don't mind historical inaccuracy. I actually quite like when movies take, I think we've talked about this before, but like take anachronistic approaches to history. I think
Like
that's
when
fine.
they say Shakespeare wrote Shakespeare.
Right. But I do get very offended when you are like, this is the real history, and I'm presenting this as actual history, and it is a comical bastardization of what history actually is. So yeah, Mel Gibson, that's another sort of element of it. It is like a weirdly Christian nationalist white supremacist movie. It includes a Mel Gibson torture scene that goes on for way too long.
Yeah, I think the other thing you could say about the problem with Braveheart being so successful is that it paved the way for him to do this all the more awfully in Passion of the Christ.
Yes, yeah, and Passion of the Christ 2 upcoming.
So what did you pick instead?
Of that year?
Yeah, what would you pick?
Well, again, on my short list of favorite movies of all time is Apollo 13, which I've recently rewatched a couple times and is just still fucking wonderful. And also really like weirdly relevant for right now too. So I mean, that's my sort of sentimental choice. But the other movies that were nominated were Babe, which is a fucking classic, Il Postino, and Sense and Sensibility. So, you know, yeah, take your pick from among them, right? Like
Sense and
that's
Sensibility is my pick.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that's among the best like Jane Austen adaptations, never mind about like movies of the year. So that sucked. I was looking over some of the recent years, and I think that there are generally, I think there's been a slew of some recently that have been kind of misfires. Um, I was surprised at how few I was really like angry about. But the ones that I think are sort of like at the time it seemed like a good idea. Slumdog Millionaire really stands out to me as a movie that I like do not think has a legacy at all anymore, and was probably a bit tonally kind of all over the place. Um, Argo, which I think is a very well crafted movie, but certainly like, you know,
It's
isn't
hard to
best
stack it up
picture.
against a more, you know,
Yeah,
for me at least. Like,
yeah. And then the other one I think that is pretty well known is like, well, we sort of brushed over Green Book, but The Hurt Locker is another weird one that I don't really quite get how that happened. And again, it's a very well made sort of like action thriller, but very weird that it won Best Picture, and not a movie that I think a lot of people look back on fondly or like took very much from. So, um, those are on my list. I think then we need to just really quickly talk about what I think is the granddaddy of all like I'm sorry what best pictures. That is the 14th annual Academy Awards. And do you know, Julia, do you know what the most famous Oscar loser of all time is?
no.
Citizen Kane.
To what one?
How Green Was My Valley, which is a lovely movie.
Yeah. It's the
Like it's
same
great.
thing. Like it's nice, but it's not a masterpiece.
It's not fucking Citizen Kane. And actually, you know, we talk shit about how the Academy now nominates 1,000 movies. That year there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 nominees for Best Picture, and not one. Citizen Kane is not is not the winner. The Maltese Falcon also nominated that year.
See, that's the
So
kind of
there,
movie I think if there was an equivalent type of movie today, would
yeah,
never get nominated. Not in a million years.
no, no, not at all, not at all. But yes, so you know, movies that lost Best Picture, you are in the same camp as Citizen Kane. So it's like, you know, it's just been happening for a long time. I think if there's like, I'd be really interested to see someone like do a study or like do a book of like, you know, the oldest living, like people who have voted in like more than, let's say, like 25 Academy Awards uh voting, and see if any of them have like changed their mind, or like what would win if like we redid all these votes today. I'm not sure how far back you can go because I don't know how far back, how alive a lot of those voters are. But I'd love to see kind of an anonymous poll of like, well, would you have made the same choice today? Because I bet we'd have some pretty wildly different rosters of some of the Academy Award winners. But the good news is that it looks like this year the Best Picture might actually be the Best Picture, because it looks like, and this is my prediction, but based on everything that I'm seeing in the zeitgeist and what seems to have the momentum, is that it seems like Sinners is headed towards the Best Picture win.
See, there's I was going to mention this earlier, but Isaac Butler, who's a great culture writer and has written a lot
Hmm?
about acting, he wrote a piece about Hamnet and how Hamnet could be a spoiler,
Oh
and
God.
what everything that's wrong with Hamnet, which I have to say after his appraisal, I don't think I'm going to rush to see. So that's the main thrust of the article. But he also talks about Shakespeare in Love versus Saving Private Ryan in that
Can you
article.
imagine if like another Shakespeare fanfic movie fucking steals the Best Picture from like the one everybody is, people would lose their fucking minds, I think.
I
I
think
don't think
it
there's
could
any doubt that Jessie
happen.
Buckley is gonna win, but
Yeah, I've heard she's wonderful in it, but I just,
yeah, yeah.
like I have a kid, I have limited time. I don't think it's going to get to the top of the list.
I think given the politics of right now, and the politics of what Sinners has to say and the way that Hollywood works, I cannot see it losing. I just can't see it. But who knows? Maybe we're going to be living in a Best Picture Hamnet world by the time you listen to this. But my money is on Sinners. I'm pretty sure that's going to win. Do you feel like it might not?
Well, I feel like I think especially since they've let a lot of new members into the Academy, which they absolutely should have done.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more chaotic. Like there's more likely to be for like split votes, I think. So I think it's just very hard to tell. And like it's just they screw up a lot. So I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. Do you have other desired outcomes for this year's Oscars?
No, actually, no. Well, I liked Train Dreams a lot, and I think it's a wonderful movie. And I think if it won Best Picture, I'd be perfectly happy with that. But I don't think it should win over Sinners, just given given just sort of like even what happened at the BAFTAs. I just think in general, like it just needs to fucking like give that movie the Oscar and give Ryan Coogler the Oscar and all that sort of thing. I, as much as I love Paul Thomas Anderson, could not get through more than half an hour of One Battle After Another.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't
So
know.
then you missed what my one wish for the Oscars was, which is Benicio del Toro getting Best Supporting Actor for One Battle After Another.
Sure.
It's not like a hot take, but he's just absolutely wonderful in it. Just like who is this guy? What is his history? What is his past? We don't really know, but he fills it out so beautifully and just like a wonderful, warm, open person as a character. So that's my hope. It seems like he could lose to Stellan Skarsgård, which I mean I like him a lot too, and I haven't seen Sentimental Value, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I really loved Secret Agent. Wagner Moore was really excellent in it, but I think it's a really good movie kind of all around. It'd be interesting to see with it as a foreign film what happens.
Right.
I don't think
Right.
he's going to win. I think if they can give the Oscar to Timmy, they're going to give the Oscar to Timmy. But
I don't know, man.
So I had more hopes than I thought I did, but
I don't know. I am predicting a Sinners sweep pretty much across the board. So aside from Jesse Buckley, who I think is going to be the only like one that sneaks through, and maybe Benicio del Toro, because it's been kind of a long time coming for him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and he's awesome. Whatever he makes anything he's in better. So
I think also I know you're a Wes Anderson abstainer these days, but another great performance by him in Phoenician Scheme. Very different performance, but really good year for Benicio.
Well, we will see what happens, and we will talk about our reactions briefly on the next episode, whenever that is. But enjoy the Oscars. I hope everybody wins your Oscars pool or whatever. People still do that. I don't even know. And yeah, any last thoughts before we go? Ready to go watch the Oscars on YouTube?
Watch All About My Mother, the 1999 Oscar winner for
Yes.
for best foreign film. I hope we cover it someday.
We will, and also like better than all of the ones that were nominated that year. Yeah, just slot that into the Best Picture list, and that's a pretty good. I can't believe we didn't mention that in the ones, but because it won foreign language pictures.
Yeah, running a bit long, but I did have one last stray thought about 99. Also, something we missed.
What's that?
Terrence Stamp nomination for the Limey.
Oh, wait, was he nominated? Really?
I don't know. Should have been.
No, should have been.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and then the Limey period should have been.
Yeah, and the editing particularly also.
Yeah. We'll do next year. Let's just do an episode where for the Oscars we just redo the 99 Oscars. Yeah. All the nominees and all the winners.
We'll have
and,
all our past guests come and give acceptance speeches.
Oh, I love this idea. All right, that's going to take some planning, but yes, I like that idea a lot. All right, find us on social media at 1999 podcast. You can email us at 1999cageclub.me. You can find us by our names on Blue Sky, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks. Happy awards season.
Happy Oscars.
I'm going to play you guys off with Billy Crystal.
Kids who see dead people are the spookiest people in the world. You're 11, having chats with folks in heaven. So if you see my Uncle Doug, tell him I didn't pull the plug. You see things that ain't there, like Bruce Willis with hair. You're in the sixth sense. You were so great in the sixth sense. You